Washington is our focus for this next hour. Congress remains in limbo, and Republicans in the House of Representatives appear trapped in a loop. They're unable to agree on a new Speaker of the House, and so far they seem to have no way out.
How do you see this ending? Not with Kevin McCarthy as Speaker. Mr. McCarthy's been recalcitrant to that. He's lied about us. He's lied to us. And we're not voting for him.
Look, I have the record for the longest speech ever on the floor. I don't have a problem getting a record for the most votes for Speaker, too. Thank you.
Kevin McCarthy has now fallen short in 6 straight votes for Speaker. That core of hard-right Republicans who oppose him appear unwilling to budge, even after a direct appeal from former President Donald Trump. The House is set to reconvene again today at noon. Travis Danraj is back with us on the story once again this morning. Travis, we've been following this all week now, last couple of days. What are the chances that vote number 7 will turn out to be lucky number 7 for Kevin McCarthy?
Exactly. Will it be lucky number 7? That's the question, Hillary, here in Washington today. After Kevin McCarthy suffered 6 humiliating votes over the past 2 days in his bid to become Speaker of the House of Representatives. Now, 218, that is the magic number that McCarthy cannot seem to reach. And everything, all business in the House is paralyzed until a Speaker is elected. Now, this morning, CNN reporting McCarthy's team has made a, quote, substantive offer to ultra-conservative holdouts, one that would see them win rule changes that they have demanded. Sources also tell CNN that that could potentially flip 10 votes in McCarthy's favor. But, and it's a big but, that is still not enough to get to 218. Leaving Capitol Hill on Wednesday, McCarthy said that progress is being made and his quest for the Speaker's gavel is not ending.
I think it's probably best let people work through some more.
Do you have a deal with those guys right now?
Yeah, but a lot of progress.
So another big question that is outstanding right now is how many concessions is McCarthy willing to make? He's already made several, and up until now, he's pushed back on a demand that would see the rules changed in the House to allow any one member of the House to recall the Speaker. We'll see whether or not that is something he is willing to negotiate on. Now, we'll show you a tweet from Nancy Pelosi. She tweeted this. To the stalemate that is happening right now in the House of Representatives in this bid to replace her as Speaker. She called it frivolous, disrespectful, and unworthy of this institution. Now, Democrats echoed that. Here's a little bit more from them, and also what Republicans that are supporting McCarthy are saying.
Contrast between House Democrats on the chaos and confusion taking place on the other side of the aisle could not be more clear. For the first time in 100 years, there was not an agreement for Speaker of the House.
I know that it's uncomfortable. We don't like what's happening, but at the same time, it's the best democracy and is democracy at its best.
And so now we wait. There's going to be serious questions here for Kevin McCarthy if he doesn't get this today. We're talking about 7 votes now, and there's going to be real pressure on him from even moderate Republicans, even those that do support him, as to whether or not he needs to really step back here, take the scene in, take the whole situation in on the whole, and look at what's best for the party here and see whether or not there's another option. Steve Scalise, the second-ranking Republican in the House, is somebody that has been talked about as a potential replacement, but it's looking more and more like there's no path to 218 for McCarthy. So will he accept defeat so his party and the country can move forward? We'll find out at around noon Eastern. Of course, we'll have coverage for you throughout the day here on CBC News Network. Hillary?
Pressure on McCarthy, the spotlight on the Republicans and the Democrats, sitting back, taking it all in. Travis, thank you for this. Travis Danraj for us in Washington this morning. Well, we have more now on the chaos for Republicans on Capitol Hill. Joining us from Washington is Ursula Perrano, a political reporter at the Daily Beast. Ursula, good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, happy to be here.
So you were in the House last night, saw all of this firsthand. Even the vote to finally adjourn almost turned into another embarrassing loss for Kevin McCarthy. So describe the mood on the floor for us last night, everything that you watched play out.
Yeah, I will say last night, the vote to adjourn was one of the more raucous votes we've seen this entire time. Democrats screaming at the top of their lungs, no, trying to bring in their last few members. 2 Democrats did end up being absent. trying to object, trying to force another vote, because it is embarrassing for McCarthy. On the Republican side, we did have most Republicans willing to adjourn, but a couple of these never Kevin Republicans that are really trying to hone in the point that he doesn't have the votes were also trying to force a 7th ballot at 8 p.m. last night. The mood has been interesting. On Tuesday, we saw folks a lot more energetic, a lot more into the process, but yesterday, aside from the adjournment vote, folks seem tired. This is a really long, lengthy, meticulous process. And at this point, it's growing old, especially when the numbers have been pretty much the same across 6 ballots.
Long and lengthy, and I've seen photos on Twitter of pizza boxes stacked up being rolled into some of those offices as they all sort of settled in for even more of this. There is some new reporting this morning, though, Ursula, that McCarthy is offering more concessions to the Republican hardliners who stand in his way. Any indication that that's going to lead to any sort of movement here?
There is a segment of the folks who have voted against McCarthy that could definitely sort of move the goalpost for them. Some of these rule changes that they have been hoping for, things that take power away from leadership, things that allow more procedural opportunities to rank and file members. Those things matter to, I would say, probably about 9 or 10 of the Republicans that have been in this 20 no on Kevin voting block. But the remaining 10, some of them, it's more personal. They think that McCarthy is this holdover of leadership past, that he is a relic of what hasn't worked in the House. And so for them, it very well couldn't work. We could be seeing still a heavy defection rate within this caucus, and McCarthy can only afford to lose 4 votes before he loses the speakership altogether, barring anybody starting to vote present, which is sort of just a null vote in the House.
So on that note, let's talk a little bit more about that, because we did hear from McCarthy yesterday joking that he's willing to go into the history books as having the most votes for Speaker. But your latest story for the Daily Beast suggests that he likely can't survive much longer.
Yeah, I mean, it's a question of how long do they want to do this. It does hold up a lot of stuff in the House. They can't hire staff. New members can't get sworn in. They had their families here this week. They were ready to get their photos taken. They had their best outfits on. That's frustrating for a huge segment of the freshman class. There are actual things happening here that are complicated. Folks don't have some of their national security clearances. They can't get legislating. Republicans waited 4 years for this majority, and now they're getting a sort of stall on being able to do anything with it. That's frustrating for all. And so I do think that if McCarthy goes maybe 1 or 2 more ballots where he's stuck and he doesn't seem to have a path, there are holdouts. It's a question of, do other Republicans say, okay, we got to consider other options. We can't do this over and over and over.
Let's talk a little bit about the Democrats here. Some of them have even been tweeting out photos of themselves with bags of popcorn, settling in to watch this show play out. But there are some commentators who are also saying that perhaps they should actually bail out McCarthy, find a way to get him into the Speaker's chair. Do you think that that's going to happen? Do you think the Democrats are going to help him here?
I'll say I spoke to a lot of Democrats last night. They say in the future, there might be some possibility, but right now it doesn't seem on the table. There is sort of a balancing act. The things that are negative about the delay of the House starting in some parts also affect Democrats. They can't hire their staff. They can't get sworn in. But at the same time, it means that the Republican counterparts who are ready to mount these huge investigations into Democrats that are looking to pass very conservative bills and be holdups on policy can't get to work either. And for Democrats, that's something to be cherished. That's something that they do value. So they're having to sort of counterweight these things. But at the end of the day, I do expect that if this goes on in time, that might change. Some Democrats said if there's serious concessions in negotiations between Republicans and themselves, maybe, but it doesn't seem like they're there yet.
What do the past couple of days tell you about what the next couple of years might look like? Because there's been a lot made of the fact that this chaos could be a sign of what the House might look like with just this slim Republican majority.
Oh, it's not going to be fun. There is this slim Republican majority, and especially if they get their way this time, they're going to know that they have the numbers to hold up policy to make it more conservative as they please. But, it's a question of, even if he does manage to eke out this win, there's still sort of that stain on his leadership where it shows that he has to go through all of this just to get a speaker vote, which is historically a pretty easy peasy process that does not go to multiple ballots, even if there are some defections. I think that at the end of the day, Republicans boasted a lot about their potential to pick up dozens and dozens of seats in the midterms, and they didn't. They were left with this majority that's very narrow. They can only lose 4 votes. And when you have that reality, we are going to see a Republican caucus that's very fractured, infighting, and we should expect that this ultra-conservative wing sees what they can do this go around, and they're going to use it again.
Okay, Ursula, you've had a front row seat for the past couple of days, yet again today for a third day of all of this, but thank you for making a little bit of time for us this morning.
Yeah, thanks for having me.